Hey, what's up YouTube? So I wanted to make this video while the idea was still fresh in my head. But the biggest criticism I have about the Trump administration is his foreign policy and how he has handled his relations with the countries that are generally Muslim dominated. The travel ban I don't necessarily have a problem with, but the fact that we're escalating tensions with countries like Syria and the neighboring countries just as a result of being in conflict with Syria. It's a recipe for disaster for the taxpayer, but for the military-industrial complex, it's all part of the plan. They have these massive Ponzi schemes where they say that we're going to go to war for a good cause, casus belli. If you've ever seen the Seinfeld episode, that's where I got that phrase from, but it's actually a very relevant term because it's Latin for justification for war. So I'm concerned about the current administration because I feel like the reason why Trump won a lot of people over was because of his anti-establishment ways, and that included being an enemy of the military-industrial complex. When you look at the recent military spending increases, the budget increases, that's concerning. The aggressive rhetoric towards countries like Syria it's unacceptable if you think about it, because now we're pretty much putting all the pieces together for another Middle East campaign, or theater rather. Sorry. And that's not good. I mean, it's not good because obviously it costs the taxpayers a lot, and it fills the pockets of the rich, which isn't good. All these wars, while they may be costly for the general public, the upper echelon of wealth, they tend to get the profits because they're part of the arms industry. They are the ones who are funding, let's face it, both sides. I mean, that's what happened in World War II with Prescott Bush. And there's clear documentation of that he essentially funded the Nazi Party and then basically funded the German military right after that. So he pretty much built up Nazi Germany in a way. If that statement that I just made is incorrect, then please don't hesitate to correct me on that. That's just what I believe has happened from what I've heard. The idea that we're going to go to war with Syria to, I guess, ease the public's concerns about the Russia connection is totally asinine. Paul Joseph Watson actually said this. He said, "Trump, you're basically going to war to prove that you're not a Russian agent." Now, that's not the only reason why he's going to war, but that seems to be some of the public perception among some of the hard right-wingers in Trump's base, which is kind of funny if you think about it. Think about this for a second. The Democratic Party and the left has become a party that is pro-censorship and pro-war, while most of the Republican Party is starting to become more peaceful, more non-interventionist, and that includes me. I'm still a registered Democrat, but I'm very right-wing in a lot of ways. Left-wing in some ways, very left in certain ways, but more far-right on other issues. But the Republican Party, at least the followers, not the actual Republican senators and the members of the House, for the most part, they're pretty much all pro-war. They don't really give a shit. I'm not sure what went down with the Syria strikes. I don't know if that was via executive decision or via Congress. I think it may have been through executive order, which sucks, but that's just... it is what it is, I guess. But it can be very concerning, though, for the non-interventionist types that are in Trump's base. And that's the thing that kind of baffles me about the left. It's like, I think that some of the right, or pardon me, some of the left would actually be happy that members of the right are actually starting to speak out against Trump in terms of the Syria thing. And they're just so set in their ways that they don't even want to associate with with people like us, which is really unfortunate. Um, I mean, they're keyboard gangsters for the most part, so they'll talk a big game. But, for the most part, it's actually very disrespectful because I mean, me genuinely, I'd like to discuss politics with people that I don't agree with because I think that my chances of being enlightened are actually increased. This is why I'm left leaning on a lot of issues. It's because not only because of my own organic beliefs, but because of what the left. It's basically me meeting the left halfway in a way, which is nice. So I can talk to the left about the prison industrial complex, for the most part, the military industrial complex. I can talk to them for the most part, but not really, because it's all about fighting Russia. It's all about defeating the Soviet threat, which is just fucking retarded. Pardon my French. And if I'm wrong, if I'm misperceiving your guys' methods, then let me know, please. But yeah, it really seems like for the most part, a lot of people on the left want to go to war with Russia, which is just insane. I mean, this is why I don't know. I just kind of ask people, it's like, do you really understand that the left is more pro-war and more pro-censorship, and the censorship deal is a whole other thing. But yeah, the Democratic Party and the leftists, for the most part, are, mostly pro-war. I mean, I might be wrong. There's some leftists. There's some and I'm doing a poor job of explaining this, but the people that I generally perceive to be pro-war on the left are the neoliberals, and then the neoliberal shills, like the shills for Hill, essentially, like that crowd. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know where I was going with this, but it's crazy, Oh, I know what I was going to say. So there are some personalities on the left that are very they have spoken out against the increased action in Syria, and one of the names that comes to mind immediately is Jimmy Dore, who is associated with the Young Turks, but he's got a decent political talk show, and he's basically been the one. It seems like one of the only commentators on YouTube that's willing to question the whole deal about the Assad gassing his own people deal. And even from an amateur's viewpoint or perception, it's like you'd have to ask yourself, like, okay, there's literally a CNN reporter that I think she went up to like a piece of scrap metal or like an elongated piece of fabric or something, and like started to sniff it, like, oh yeah, there's definitely been a chemical attack here. Yeah, I mean, that is if you're just using common sense, like if you took basic chemistry in high school, which everybody had to get a diploma at least, if it was poison gas, you would not want to sniff it. Are we really missing out on that? Really? Okay. I guess some people maybe like they believe that, I guess, but for the most part, I think for the most part, the silent majority on the left actually is very against all this, against all the military advances into Syria and everything, and basically just carrying water for Israel and selling a bunch of arms to not only Saudi Arabia but Taiwan. And Saudi Arabia over the years has been known to be a sponsor of terrorism. Not the government itself, but Saudi bankers. They, yeah, totally. They're part of the arms race. They sell weapons all the time. It's very plausible. I don't have any evidence to back it up, but I'm sure that there is some evidence out there. I'm sure that you could find some if you were to just do a quick Google search. I don't have the convenience of doing that right now while I'm filming because I'm on my phone. But that's pretty much it, because I think it's insane that these wars continue, and for the most part, there's partisanship that makes it impossible to actually protest the war. And what I mean by that is that there's going to be people on the left that are going to be clamoring for war. And if you try and protest the idea, like this happened to Tucker Carlson, a right-winger, Tucker Carlson got called a Russian agent because he was questioning the authenticity of the evidence that Assad actually gassed his own people. And Tucker Carlson is an anti-war voice. Tommy Lahren is an anti-war voice. Laura Ingraham is an anti-war voice. Laura Ingraham actually duked it out with fucking Sebastian Gorka on her show. And Gorka just made a total ass of himself. It's actually really funny. You should check it out. Check out just type in Laura Ingraham Sebastian Gorka Syria. It will really be entertaining. It will make you, if you haven't already had a special place of hatred in your heart for Sebastian Gorka, this video will just, I mean, not that that's a good thing, but yeah, I mean, it was just a very pathetic display of just discussion, because what he was doing was, he was yelling, he was hollering at this former general, or this former high-ranking officer in the army, I believe, and he was basically just questioning his what's the word I'm looking for? He was questioning his assessment of the situation, basically saying like he was being an apologist for Assad. And basically Gorka was trying to say, "Oh, I've got more clearance than you do." I mean, wow, that's pretty awful. That's stupid. And this is why I'm like, I consider myself to be a very centrist person myself, centrist libertarian that exists. I think that's the most practical way to go about things. But yeah, thank you for listening to my rant. It is very frustrating that people are actually wanting to go to war with Syria for the sake of getting back at Putin or whatever. Peace, guys. Peace, love, unity, respect. That's all that matters. That's all. That is all that matters.